Thank you, Milton. I appreciate that. And thanks, everybody, for joining me. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me clearly. So if you wouldn't mind going into the Zoom webinar chat and just letting me know where you are in the world and if you can hear me clearly, I'd appreciate it, just so I can make sure that everything is working appropriately. And just let me know that you're here and you can hear me. And okay, thank you. And looks like we are good to go. All right, thank you, Milton, for chiming in. So thanks, everybody, for joining me. My name is Trygve. I'm the Director of Business Development at BizzyWeb. We are a full-service growth agency, which I'll get to in a minute. Today, we're going to be talking about a specific vertical, and that's the manufacturing industry, especially the manufacturing industry up here in the upper Midwest. So what the whole focus of today should be is I'd like you to be able to leave with a good understanding of how to market your business differently, and have a full cycle of and a full spectrum of touch points for your prospects, not just in marketing, but also in sales. So that's what we're going to try and do today. If you have any questions, feel free and enter them in the webinar chat pane. I am going to be monitoring that chat pane as I'm talking. And if anybody has a question, no big or too small, I will be happy to stop what I'm doing and answer it. So it sounds like everybody can hear me okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Just as a point about us, if you haven't heard of us before, we are a full service growth agency based here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Our three major focuses are on inbound marketing, digital marketing, and creative web design. We are a HubSpot agency partner. We are a gold and actually now platinum certified agency partner with them. We've been Constant Contact certified since 2011. We've won awards every year for our email marketing, and we are a Grow with Google high impact partner and have been for several years. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk first about how to market for manufacturing. Why is manufacturing such a specific vertical, and why are the needs different in manufacturing as opposed to anything else? Then we're going to talk about some fundamentals as it relates to the marketing industry. First, contacts. Second, how to create a buyer's persona, and then how to create a specific buyer's journey that's relevant to you. Third is content. How do we create content? How do we create specific content and content that our buyers are going to be interested in? How to set some goals and realistic goals. And then what does this actually all look like if it gets put together? So hopefully this all sounds good to you. Doesn't look like we've had any drop-offs yet, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So to start with, we're going to be talking a lot about inbound marketing, and that's going to be a substantive shift from what you might be used to and what traditional marketing methods are. And I wanted to start with some level setting about why this is going to be important, why this is relevant for manufacturing. Really, in the manufacturing industry, what we've discovered with all of the successes that we've had at BizzyWeb with our clients in the manufacturing industry is that their customers have very specific needs. So talking about things in a general sense doesn't really cut the mustard anymore. And secondly, those customers are coming to our clients with an idea of what they want and how they want to buy it. So what we're seeing in the industry is that customers are a lot more specific in their needs, and they're also much more specific in how they want to do business. So that's why when we talk about inbound marketing, that's what we're really going to do. In traditional marketing, manufacturers focus on finding those customers. That's interruptive, it's marketer centric, it's sending out emails, it's sending out different cold calling strategies, any way to get in front of people, even in a trade show sense. It's based on the idea of a volume base, if the old business school axiom that if you talk to 100 people, you'll find 10 that are interested and one becomes a client. That's sort of what the old model looks like. But what we found is that buyers are more empowered today more than anything. So when they're looking for a very specific niche thing, the internet provides them with that instant gratification. They're able to find what they need quickly. So which means that your buyers are the ones who are actually defining the terms. So what inbound is actually adapting to that evolving buyer behavior. So if that's how the buyers are thinking, what our job is as marketing and salespeople is to really get in touch with that and give them the information that they need. There's really no way to rewrite the story anymore because of the internet has flattened everything informationally speaking. So when we're talking about traditional marketing, again, what that really means is we're shouting at people. When we're customer-centric inbound marketing, we are giving our customers and our prospects the opportunity to really become a champion. So here's what I would define as inbound marketing and really how this relates to the manufacturing industry. Inbound marketing focuses on attracting manufacturing customers through relevant and helpful content. And then we add value at every stage in your customer's buying journey. It's not enough to find somebody who's just interested in what you need. If you're a parts manufacturer, just saying we're a parts manufacturer isn't enough. Are you a precision parts manufacturer? What sort of mediums do you work with? What sort of materials do you work with? What is your error rate? All of these are actual relevant things that we want to give to our buyers ahead of time. So as they're doing the evaluation, they're wanting to work with us. So what inbound marketing actually does is it attracts qualified prospects for you, because the more information those customers have and the more that they like, it builds trust and credibility for your business. So by the time they actually pick up the phone, you will have gotten a much better educated customer and a customer who's already willing and able to ask in-depth penetrating questions about whether or not you can truly solve for their issue. It's also about getting found by customers. Really, as we're in an era where the internet gives us any access to anything, we are all feel more empowered about how we search and how we find the solutions we need. And if we can't find a solution very easily, chances are we might just ditch the problem itself or refocus on a different issue. So inbound is also about getting you found by those customers. So what's your role as an inbound marketer? It's two things. Number one, it's to be as helpful as possible, to make sure that everything that you do provides value to your prospect. So that might be offering a case study. It might be offering a white paper. It might be showing your production line in some way that doesn't reveal any sort of trade secret, but it's giving your customers the opportunity to kick the tires of who you are and what problem that you can solve for them. And it's also about being human. As you've, and this is probably one of the last times I'm going to talk about this, hopefully, over the what we're all working through right now, what my email box is inundated with is all sorts of conversations about in these strange times or in these weird times or in these challenging times. And that's great, and it helps to be human, but I've gotten to the point where I'm just completely wired out against it. Really, what I'm interested in right now is somebody who can help me take my mind off of that and actually focus on business. And the third thing that I don't have listed out here as your important role in an inbound marketer is to be specific, to really offer the people that you are talking with a specific way to help. And you do that through a number of different marketing techniques. You do problem-solving blog posts, and really the way that works the most helpful is if you have a list that your salespeople can give you of frequently asked questions. Everything that buyers really want to know before they make the jump with you, use that opportunity to create a list of blog posts. So. And I got my first question from Milton. Milton asks, do you need to write the blogs yourselves? Kind of yes and kind of no. What you can hire people to do it for you, but you want to make sure that they have your unique voice in there. So it's not something that I would recommend doing to just having anybody who is on your team. You want to make sure that the voice is consistent with the voice of the company. So problem-solving blog posts, that's a great start. Also, writing personalized emails. The trick with emails is it has to be interesting and it has to be relevant at the time that it gets sent. And all right now, we're all getting that same email about in these challenging times. You can also provide educational social media videos. One of the things that we're going to be doing is I'm going to be posting this to YouTube afterwards and sharing this with anybody who thinks that this might be helpful to them. And you might have an opportunity to provide some education on how you do something or how your company creates products or services for people that really help educate them on their process. So, couple of things to ask yourself at this point in the process is, number one, are you creating content with your manufacturing prospects in mind? And if you need to be talking to the salespeople and having an open and honest conversation, not only with sales, but also with marketing. And if you have the layered effect of dealing with your dealer network's customers as well, so that poses an additional challenge of selling from B to B to your dealer networks and then to C. So are you creating those content for not only your prospects on a B2B level, but also on a B2B to C level? And if you're not, you really need to go back and really examine that content to find out what you can do differently. And then ask yourself the question, would my customers or my prospects find this particular information helpful? And if not, then it's time to reevaluate your content. Next, are you sufficiently explaining this thought or idea? So one of the things that I've discovered in dealing with manufacturers is they are by and large very, very, very smart people. And a lot of you who can hear me are in engineering or have an engineering background, because that's really what's helpful when you're making things, is really understanding how things work and how things can be built and put together. So the challenge then is, if you are that smart and you have this great idea and passion, can you sufficiently explain it to someone else to the extent that they can actually understand and hear and appreciate it? And if not, it's probably time to get some help in marketing. And third, are you giving somebody all the information and resources they need? And one of the ways that you can tell this is if you have high traffic on your website, but you're not getting a lot of conversions, that means that something is broken in the buyer's journey, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. What you want to do is make sure that all of the information that your potential customer might need is available to them on their timetable. And if you need help figuring that out, that's a great longer term blog and longer term thing that we'd be happy to help you with at BizzyWeb. But ultimately, what you really want to ask is, much like if you go to a store back when we were able to go to stores, and somebody asks you the question, have you been able to find everything you need? If the answer is no, then it's time to reevaluate your marketing position. Bill from Atlanta, thanks for joining, Bill. Bill asks, how often should I post content? It's a great question. Thank you for asking it, Bill. And it's a difficult question to answer because really it depends on how much your specific buyers are needing and how much they are trying to ingest from you. So I'll get into that a little, but if you need some help with that, I'd be more than happy to speak to it offline. But thank you for the question. So helpful marketing, again, very simple, clear, correct, specific, and most importantly, trustworthy. You got it, Bill. Thanks for asking the question. So again, as we get back to what is your role as an inbound manufacturing marketer, we want to be helpful, we want to be human, and we want to be specific. Now, here's the trick, is technology allows marketers to be more human if you do it well and if you do it right. There's no substitute for good old-fashioned due diligence when reaching out to a customer. If you can hear my voice, chances are good you've been reached out to by one of the team at BizzyWeb who thought enough of you and enough of your position in the manufacturing industry here in Minnesota that we wanted to offer you the opportunity to join us today. That had some good results. We were able to speak to you specifically, talk about your product, your company, and what we could do to potentially help you. And that's why we're leading with this in our engagement with you, is we really want to understand and offer you a new way of thinking. So technology allows you to be more human if you do it well, but if not, it's just noise. So what you want out of your technology is the opportunity to enable your customers to feel connected to your business in some way or another. One of the things that we do at BizzyWeb on an infrequent basis is we typically post some funny videos. And it really doesn't help, or it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it does show you who you're going to be working with at BizzyWeb. It shows you the kind of people we are. We're a little bit irreverent, a little bit kooky, but we are creative people. And that, what we found is by doing that, even though it doesn't actually create wind speed for the business, what it does do is it helps our potential customers and consumers to feel connected to who we are as people, and it makes them feel good about knowing really who they're going to be dealing with. So that's what you ultimately, the goal of your marketing is to help them feel connected to your business and want to take the next step. What is the next step? The next step is to pick up the phone and call and start talking with you. So again, what we're trying to do here is to create a marketing experience that your prospects will love. And one of the things, again, that we experience at BizzyWeb is that it's not about what you can do and what you want to put out in the world. It's really about what your prospects want and how they want it. So once you can do that, then you really have an opportunity to create experiences that your prospects will love. So for instance, if you are in a position of doing something like creating new kitchen cabinetry, really that's a terrifying experience because your kitchen is going to be torn up for weeks on end. But at the end of the day, that you are going to have a brand new, beautiful experience in the room in your house that everybody congregates in. And so by showing your prospects what the end result is, what you get is you get to back into the sales process to really make it sing. We do this by using the inbound methodology, of which there's 4 parts in your sales and marketing process. That starts with attract. That's where people are strangers. They don't know you. They've never heard of you before. They're starting to realize that they have a problem that they want to have solved. What happens then is they visit you. They go to your website. They evaluate who you are. They look around. They look at your pictures. They read your content, maybe download something, and they fill out a form. And they say, okay, yeah, I'm interested in learning more. At that point, you go from convert to close because now they're a sales lead. And so what is the most helpful in your position there is things like leads, emailing, creating great workflows, having all that information available on your CRM. Next, they become customers, which great, fantastic. And depending upon how expensive your product is, you want to, they might become repeat customers or they might become a one and done customers. Tiffany, thanks for your question. Let me finish and then I'll ask that question. So once they become a customer, what you want to do is move them to promotion and being a promoter and telling other people about the great experience that they're having and how they're doing it and how they're sharing. So Tiffany asked the question, is this methodology suited more for the sales team or the marketing team? Tiffany, what we are arguing here today is that the answer is yes to both. So the first 2 processes, the attract and convert, those are typically more marketing centric. The close and delight are sales. But really what we find that the most effective methodology when this works together is if the sales and marketing teams are together in lockstep. And as you can see in the different parts of the sales process, there are some marketing aspects that help. And same with the attract and convert, there are some things that are relevant for the sales team to be in partnership with. So really, if we can get your sales and marketing team aligned, then it's really going to have the most positive effect. So one of the things that we get all the time at BizzyWeb is that a lot of people call and say, oh, well, I really want to do this one thing. Can you help with this one thing? The answer is, well, yes, of course we can. But what we find is that a single inbound marketing tactic isn't going to be powerful on its own. And people sort of have this idea that especially back in 10, 12 years ago, where if you put up a Facebook page, you can make $1 million. Well, that was great. And that was 12 years ago. But today, really what you need to be able to do is have a lot of prospects really working together. And a lot of prospects really, a lot of, excuse me, not a lot of prospects, a lot of tactics working together based on the idea of what your customers want and how they need it. So if you need to be sending out email because your customer, that's where your customers are, great, do that. So again, as we're talking about the inbound methodology, what we want to do is take people from strangers to promoters. And we do that by flattening the importance of everything. So Tiffany asked a question earlier, is this something that the marketing team or the sales team should do? Really, everybody needs to do this, because how you market to somebody and how you make promises is just as important as how you close somebody, which is how you create a solution that's specific and integral to that person, which is just as important as how you deliver it. So all of those things are basically flat. And so everybody really needs to be working together to really create a lot of forward momentum for your organization. So what are the fundamentals of inbound marketing, and how do we change our current marketing strategy in order to make that work? So we need 4 things. Number 1 is we need people. So we need contacts. We need to have an opportunity to keep them in mind. We need an opportunity to use them. And second, we need to understand who is our best customer. I often am famous for offering my mother as a lead generation source, because she is a person, but is she the right person for you? Well, chances are probably no. Third is content. Once we figure out who is the right person we want to talk to, we then create content that is relevant and interesting and timely to them. And finally, goals. We want to create achievable goals and measurable goals, things that we can actually create a data-driven case for why marketing and sales are really delivering on their promise. So let's start with context. By the way, it seems like we've gotten a couple of latecomers, so thanks for coming, and I apologize for the technical difficulty on getting us set up. So if you have questions, please feel free and ask them in real time. So far, we've gotten a lot of really good questions. So let's talk about contacts. These are the heart of your inbound marketing efforts. These are the most important things that you have. And because they've started a relationship with you, they're circling you in some way, and they are really going to be the lifeblood of how you're going to create more business for your team. Question is, how do you create more business for your team? How do you take them from being nothing to being something? So what is a contact? Well, that's anybody your company markets to, anybody they sell to, anybody they partner with, anything that you have a relationship with, anything that you have a deeper understanding with. That's what a contact truly is. What we recommend at BizzyWeb is having a strong contact database. These are commonly referred to as CRMs. These are the most important part. Well, it's the second most important part in any organization behind a really strong accounting team. If you have a great CRM, what your marketing and sales team should be able to work together by offering, by having a recorded list of everything that's been done with that client, everything that's been done with in sales, and everything that's been done in marketing. So Randy asks, is there a CRM BizzyWeb uses and recommends? Thanks for the question, Randy. We use HubSpot, but there's a lot of really great ones out there. And just because we use something doesn't make it the best. And I'm not trying to promote a specific thing, but we have a lot of good luck with HubSpot. Salesforce is another one. Salesforce is a fantastic one, but it does take a while to implement and get integrated into an organization. So once you have that great contact list of any number of thousands of people, really the next step is identify what are the contacts that are relevant to your need of trying to grow the business. So who are the ones that are successfully helping, who are being successfully helped by your business, and then how can you ultimately delight them even further? The way we do that is by actually asking them the question. So in this particular instance, this is my my dog's pet groomer. She's been closed for a couple of weeks. And the way that I recommended that she help or do more with her business is actually send out real, actual snail mail to people saying, what can we do? And what are the things you need from us in order to recommend you to more business? It's not about, she's not going to send it to cat users. She's not going to send it to bird users or people who are buying a list of anybody that's a pet owner. It's specific to dogs and specific to dogs that need to get groomed. So she might have in a contact list something, and again, this is an illustrative example. She might have a lot of different kinds of pet owners in her database, but really, if she's trying to push a specific product line, then she wants to make sure that what she's pushing relates specifically to the people who actually need the thing. If you're a cat owner, or if you own a parakeet, you don't really need to know anything about dog grooming. So the next step in our process is the buyer personas and the buyer's journey. And so this kind of gets a little bit nerdy, but stay with me because it's something that makes really good sense pretty quickly. So one of the things that we do when we market for businesses at BizzyWeb, and what we recommend that you do, is create a buyer persona. And what a buyer persona is it's a fictional representation of who your ideal buyer is. And so there's perhaps some speculation about who they are. There's some motivations, demographic information, really honing in on who they are as a person, because when you do that, you can start to understand what their goals are and what their needs are on an individual subconscious level. And when you talk to people, you can talk to people on those levels. We actually write it all down. We write a profile for those people. You might have one, you might have 4 different personas, depending upon your organization, but it's an absolutely crucial part of growing your business. So how do you create something like that? Well, number one, do some research. Ask the people who are servicing the clients, who's their favorite people to deal with. Ask the salespeople, who are their favorite people to deal with. In our organization at BizzyWeb, we have 3 salespeople. They all have very different interpretations of who's the best person to deal with and the most fun to deal with and the easiest to deal with. And then next, identify trends. What in the marketplace is somebody who might need your services? One of the things that we're talking to a lot of different people about right now is people in the golf industry. So as golf courses are starting to open up, the people who really have a competitive advantage right now in the golf industry are the people who can take reservations online and not have to have any sort of physical touch or any sort of relationship where you're dealing with people on a one-to-one basis. So we're actually trying to find people who don't have that on their website and talk to those people. Tony, thanks for that question. I'll answer it in just a second. So once you identify those trends, create a persona profile story and really write it down and give as much detail as you can as possible. Now, Tony Pinder asked the question, we did this 3 to 4 years ago. How often do you recommend updating this kind of stuff? So that's a great question. And again, thank you for asking it. And just as a reminder, if you came late, if you want me to ask her a question, I'd be more than happy to try and answer it. Tony, what I recommend is that anytime you can tell if a trend has changed or if your business is dipping at all, it's time to revisit the personas to make sure that the marketing efforts that you are putting forth is still viable, or has it changed in some way? Because usually if you see a dip in business, there's usually an answer for that, and there is something that you can control. Here's the kicker, though. The persona research actually has to be based in data, not actual assumptions. So when you're talking about your best case fit client, it has to be the one that not only is the most fun and easiest to deal with, but the ones that are creating a high dollar amount for you. So here's some questions that we use. Questions like role, things like what are your goals, and where do you get new information for your role? That's actually a critical question that we ask all the time. And how do you research products or vendors? And if you're interested, I can give you this deck after the show, so you don't, or you can take a screenshot of it. I'll leave it up for a second and take a drink so you can take a look. And if you want to take a screenshot, you can. So as you're providing these sample research questions, you want to interview these people. And not only do you want to ask the salespeople and the marketing people, but then you want to dive in a little deeper and actually talk to them. Talk to the current customers, talk to former customers, talk to people who provide you components, talk to your equipment manufacturers, anything like that. Also talk to your prospects, also talk to your coworkers, get as much information as you possibly can in order to define that persona. And then you start looking for the trends. And so you start looking for the patterns, looking for the similarities in what you're trying to find. And what you end up finding is that you will start seeing some patterns. And then once you start recognizing those patterns, that starts indicating who your personas really are. So here's kind of what it looks like. We do a little bit different, a little bit fancier than this, but these are the kind of informations that when we do this, we get into. So background, who they are, what key information about them, what relevant background information. So demographics, how old are they? Is it a difference if they're male or female? What is their, are they married or not married? What are some of the buzzwords that they use? What are some of the mannerisms that they use? What are their goals? What are their fears? How we can help them. What are some common objections that people who fit that mold really have? Sometimes it's fear. They don't want to make a mistake. So that's great. If you understand that, that means you can talk to that. So the next step in our process is we want to start laying into the buyer's journey. And what is the buyer's journey? That's a fancy marketing term, but really what it boils down to is it's the research process somebody goes through leading up to a purchase. As I said earlier, buyers today, especially in the manufacturing industry, especially in the packaged goods industry, are leaning towards doing a lot of the due diligence before they even talk to a salesperson. They're going to come with one or two questions. A lot of the typical sales pitch isn't even necessary anymore because a lot of that information is going to be answered already by your prospect before they even talk to a salesperson. So this has three different parts to it. It has the awareness stage, the consideration stage, and the decision stage. And I'm going to break these down into individual things. So the awareness stage is where somebody recognizes they have a problem. That might be something as simple as, God, my kitchen looks old, and God, my kitchen looks dated, or maybe I want to sell my house and I need an updated kitchen, something like that. The next stage is, what am I going to do about it? Well, is it something that I can solve or something that I need to hire out? Okay, if I need to hire out, how much does this actually cost? How hard is it to do to redo a kitchen? And then what are some people that would be good fits for actually solving my problem? And then finally, the decision stage. I have determined that you are the company that I want to potentially engage with. Don't tell me anything to frighten me off, and I'll be ready to go. So 3 stages in the buyer's journey. And when you have this buyer's journey, you can tell that people's needs differ as you go through that. Somebody in the awareness stage might not even know that they have a problem, or you can actually educate them about a problem that they don't even know that they have. Then as you dig deeper into the consideration stage, you want to talk about how you can solve problems, how you can make their life better. And the decision stage really is verifying that the decision that they want to make with you is the right one and the good one. Okay, so we've created a buyer's journey. We've created some buyer personas. We've got a big mess of contacts. Now, how do we talk to them? That we get into content. So what inbound marketing really gets into is the marriage of content and context at the right time. We've talked already today about how people will find out any sort of information, but it's not relevant to them until it is. So allowing your prospects to find the right information and the right content on their schedule is where you're really going to start to shine. So when you're asking this question, who are you creating content for? It's also good to know when they need it. Finally, today, let's talk about goals a little. This is something that a lot of C-level people have challenges with because they think that marketing is the end-all and be-all and can save the world. It can't really. So you want to make sure that when you're selling marketing solutions to your salespeople, you're also selling them to the upstairs people so they have a realistic expectation of what can happen. So when you start with your inbound marketing efforts, start from a place where you know what you want to achieve. And the easiest way to do that is to get a good understanding of the marketing assets that you have already. So if you, and what they're actually achieving for you. So if you understand what you've got and then where you want to go, you have what's known as the gap. And typically the gap might be very big, it might be very small, but at the end of the day, really what you have is the opportunity to understand how to close that gap. But the question then becomes, if you don't know where you want to go, how do you know how to get there? So to give you an example, there is, if everybody who could hear me right now jumped in your car right now and drove to Chicago, eventually you would get to Chicago. But there is a quick way to get to Chicago, and there's the most efficient way to get to Chicago from wherever you are, and there's an inefficient way to do that. So understanding what your goal is, I want to get to Chicago, will help you figure out the path to get there in the quickest and most efficient manner. You do that by goal setting, and goal setting helps provide alignment between your sales and marketing team. Salespeople are famous for asking for the moon and not having any understanding of how to get there. Things like saying, well, I would like triple the leads next month. Well, that's great, but is that a really realistic goal? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe the issue isn't about the lead quantity as it is about the lead quality. Maybe the issue is about how the salespeople are interacting with the good quality leads that the marketing team is already giving them. And it really isn't a marketing effort at all. So when we're talking about setting our goals, everybody has to come to the table with a realistic understanding and appreciation of what makes a good lead and how are we working with them. Because you don't want to just put forth a big giant marketing effort and burn a bunch of leads by insulting them on the sales front. It has to be done lockstep together. And you also want to set goals that show how your marketing efforts helps the company numbers grow. And that involves getting into the revenue portion of the business and really understanding and drawing a straight, bright line from a marketing effort into translation and conversion into revenue. You absolutely have to do that, and which inbound marketing and what we do at BizzyWeb actually does, because what those C-level people understand is if you can create the case for how you are affecting the bottom line with real numbers that affect revenue, then you're going to have your marketing budgets grow, you're going to have your team grow, and you're going to be able to do a lot more good work. One of the things that I caution you to avoid are things like vanity metrics, especially if you're looking at going after or dealing with a vendor, is you want to make sure that they're really focused exclusively on the revenue streams for you and what really makes a good sale for you, not just a vanity metric of, hey, we got 100 more people to your website. Well, that's great, but if they're not going to buy from you, what good does that do? So we've gone over the inbound marketing fundamentals. We've talked about contacts. We've talked about the buyer's persona and the buyer's journey, content, and we've talked about goal, how to set good goals. This should be a start for you about how to grow your business and how to take your business to the next step. And I'm sorry I missed a question. John asks, what's a normal marketing budget you typically see for companies looking to grow? That's a great question, John, and it's a difficult one to answer. So I talked a little bit earlier about the gap. What I recommend typically is that one of the things that we do at BizzyWeb is actually create a strategy and a game plan for everything that a marketing person should do, and a realistic data-driven case as to not only what their competition is doing and what their individual company gap is. That kind of helps set the cost of what something like this happens. And oftentimes what we find is there are a lot of companies who are doing it really well, and they just need a little bit of a tweak. For instance, we have a company that we're working with in North Dakota that's doing amazing work. They're creating blogs once a week. They're doing YouTube videos all the time. but they're not getting a lot of great results for it. So what we're recommending to them is a small tweak. It's not something that they have to really change what they do on a regular basis. So it's actually a minimal cost to them. Whereas we have some people that we work with that are startups and have nothing. Well, if you have nothing, then it's quite a bit more. But I appreciate the question, John. And if you're interested about a specific user case for you, please reach out to me afterwards, and I'll be happy to answer your questions in a little more detail. So now that we've talked about the fundamentals of inbound marketing, what does this really look like as a potential use case? So when you do something like this, really you want to be able to say that just as you're driving to Chicago, if you make a wrong turn, that's great. Turn a different direction. So the way you do that is by implementing, you test and adjust your strategy over and over and over again. So sometimes this can be trial and error, but the more you try, the more you uncover about your buyer's persona, and the more quicker you hone in on the right messaging that helps your customer grow. So inbound marketing really works best when tools and tactics are used together. So not only the offline messaging, not only the sales efforts those are married with the tools that help everything flow together in sort of a flywheel effect. So again, we talked about the attract stage. So when somebody's a stranger, really the things that are going to help them decide to take the next step are things like having a blog where a lot of those frequently asked questions are answered. Next, talking about keywords. So what a keyword is that search engine optimization, so that it's anybody who's looking for a potential solution will find you. And then also publishing on social media as well. So as you can tell, I'm doing this from my home studio today, and my dog is incredibly upset right now. So when we're talking about attracting, we're doing talking about relevant content and SEO. So SEO, what is that? It's the process of affecting the online visibility of a website or the web page in a web search engine's unpaid results. Really, that's a fancy way of saying if somebody looks up what you offer as a solution, is it going to be answered? So SEO and the blog. So we talked about this earlier, but it's important that I wanted to reflect back on it, that in order to get found by the right prospective customers, you have to create the educational content that speaks to them and answers their questions. Now, the trick is you can't answer all the questions. You have to answer the questions that make them want more and make them want to learn more. And that's a very fine line to have to walk, but if you do it right, it's going to be very successful in creating qualified leads for your sales team. So relevant content, SEO, the blog, and social media. And when you talk about social media, one of the questions you might be asking is, how do you interact? Where do you go? And how do you do? And what processes do you use? Well, if you're doing something like this, then you want to interact on the platforms where your buyer personas spend the most time. So a good way to research that is to actually figure out what's the best platform for us to be on, what kind of conversions do we get, how many views, how many likes, how many shares do we get, and really to help determine where should you be spending a lot of time. If you have a Twitter account, you haven't tweeted since 2018, and nobody has actually interacted with you on Twitter, maybe you don't need a Twitter account anymore. You can also buy advertising on social media platforms. This is known as search engine marketing or pay-per-click advertising. That's where you spend a specific amount to put an ad in front of somebody, and then you pay when they click on the ad. Sometimes that's very disruptive. Facebook is famous for, if you look something up on Google, all of a sudden you'll start seeing 12 ads that match that. And that's a fairly complicated process that I can get into later if you're interested in how. But if an ad is disruptive and it makes you wonder how they found you, then they're not going to be clicking on it. That would be considered outbound marketing, and that's more disruptive because you're not asking the question of how does this help me? You're asking the question, how did you find me? And I'm creeped out. So after they've converted from visitors to leads, they've thrown up a hand and said, yes, I'm interested. Well, what do they need in order to get that? Well, uh, really what they've done is they've optimized by providing some information on a form. And it's challenging to write a form because you want to have a whole lot of information, but people don't like filling out forms because they sort of go into a hole and maybe you get an answer and maybe you don't. So what we recommend is no more than about 4 questions, something where you can actually contact them quickly, and something that sort of relates to their needs assessment. Explain to me what you need help with, and how can I help you, and how can I talk to you about it. So the other thing that we're finding right now that is incredibly helpful is to have actual chat bots on your site where people can talk to a real person, again, not a robot, a real person right away, so they don't have to pick up the phone. I have found on a personal note that I am sliding greatly into becoming a grumpy old man, and I don't like talking to people. If I can talk to somebody on chat, that's great, because then I can be doing other things while having the conversation. So I absolutely recommend chat bots. And again, that helps people get their questions answered at the right time. Then all that information does get put into your CRM, hopefully even the chat transcript, and that is that centralized contact database. So when you have all that data on that specific person, and you have a lot of different people looking at it, then all of those people are helping to understand and optimize their future interactions with them. So next we move into the close phase. So they've put up a hand, they've said yes, we've talked to them, and they've said yes. Then we're taking people from being leads to being customers. And yeah, we're going to be using our customer relationship management software, our CRM, but we're also going to be using some lead nurturing. So what lead nurturing is the process of goosing people along and helping them evaluate their decision and center in and circle the drain on you being the right solution for them. And when you nurture, the way you do that is by using content, and you promote that content through email. It might be a specific email based on a specific use case. Again, the content isn't going to be applicable for everybody. It's going to be applicable only to people in that specific solution. Remember the groomer I talked about earlier. If you're a dog person and you get an email about cats, you're done. You're not going to be working with that customer anymore. So make sure that the content is relevant, or even use it through social media channels. So CRM, lead nurturing, email, and you can do that in a couple of different ways. You can create a drip campaign, which is where you send a series of emails based on useful information on a semi-regular basis. What that does, it helps you keep being top of mind through somebody who's put up their hand and said that they're a lead, and it also helps feed them the information that they need. Nobody makes a really big decision right away. They need to be goosed a little and provided more information, and then a little bit more information, without being clubbed over the head and demanded that you do that. That was sort of the 60s, 50s, and 60s ways of buying a car, where you go in and you make a decision. And that really doesn't apply anymore, because people don't want to buy unless they have to. So Lisa says, it sounds really time consuming to go through and sift between the contacts and then write out individualized emails. That's a great question, Lisa, and thank you for bringing it up. It does sound like a lot of time, and it is a lot of time, but there are a number of different automation tools that you can use. That's one of the reasons why we like HubSpot at BizzyWeb, is because it helps you automate those things, and it helps you define who your customer segments are, and to be able to email them en masse, but still have a personalized touch. So once they become customers, then we want to continue to work with them. We don't want to just let them out. If you consider the old sales funnel, what happens at the bottom of the funnel? The customer just falls out of it. And the easiest way for us to continue to get more and more information and more business is by continuing to have a relationship with those people that we've identified as people that we've had a relationship with. And we want to convert them then from being a customer into a promoter. Well, what do we do then? We want to make sure that we market them specifically to customers. You could do something as simple as offering them a new insight in what you're offering from scratch, or something that you're doing that might be relevant to them now, or even something as simple as offering them a deal of some kind. Your customers can be your biggest fans or your worst detractors. And the service element of your business is crucial in making sure that you are providing people a great experience and allowing them to become big raving fans. It all comes down to that partnership and how you understand what they need and delivering on it. So that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, and I thank you for participating, and I thank you for all of your great questions. So just as a recap of what we've talked about today, we've talked about inbound marketing and how the market has changed and how buying has changed. We've talked about how to create a contact list, then synthesize it into buyer personas and a buyer's journey, creating content for the right fit people and delivering it contextually at the right time, and then creating goals for your marketing campaign. And then we actually walk through how does this go through a buyer's journey and how does the different pieces of marketing fit into that. It does seem kind of complicated, but it is easy when you can lay it all out on a table and understand that people are going to zigzag through your process, and people are going to zigzag through how they deal with you and how they buy from you. And maybe they come back, go away and come back. It all depends on what your individual buyer's journey is. So as a thank you for taking the next steps for us, what we'd like to offer you is how to create these buyer personas. As we talked about today, these are the most important element in your marketing efforts. So if you've registered, you will get a link in the thank you email, and there will be some tips and tricks on how to actually create this. We'll actually have a workbook for you to create a buyer persona for you as a thank you. This was an effort on BizzyWeb's front to try and get up our visibility in the manufacturing business, because we've had a lot of great success, and we'd love to learn more about your business and try and see what can we do to help you create next steps, and how do we help you grow your business. So in addition to this webinar, the next one we're offering is about how to develop an inbound email strategy. That's going to be on Wednesday the 6th, and you can register for that at BizzyWeb.com/events. So thanks again for joining. Here is a picture of me and my information. You can reach me at 651-252-4052. I would love to hear from you if you have any feedback on this presentation and how this works. Thank you, Dirk, and thank you, Ralph, for the kind words. Appreciate it. And I'm thankful because the last 2 times I did a webinar, I actually wore that collared shirt, and today I'm not wearing that collared shirt. So I feel good about that. So thanks again for everybody for coming. Thank you for giving us the time of day in talking to you about this on the front end. Hopefully this provided you some insight on how we can help you grow your business. We'd love to talk to you further about it, and I look forward to hopefully connecting with you down the road. Thanks again, and we'll see you down the road.